Hey guys, Rupert the Ranger. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Um, guess you can count me among the creators that decide to go make a fucking video in their car. I was thinking about doing this outside. You can see I'm wearing a jacket. It's a little cold. That's not the reason though. I was thinking, okay, I could do this by the dumpster, but that's like in the middle of the parking lot, and it's currently like 1 in the morning. I didn't even check the fucking thing before I did this. And then I was like, well, what if I do it over there by the mailboxes? Because there's like another thing that way. But, that was too close to the road. And I did like a test audio. So, yay for my audio class I took in college, checking shit like that beforehand instead of assuming things were fine. um, yeah, so I checked out. I'm like, no, the audio there'd be fucked up and kind of ruin the whole thing. I know it kind of ruins it for me if somebody has bad audio. Like that's the thing in film is you can always get like better editing and do reshoots and stuff, but you have to get the audio right, because if you don't get the audio right, it's fucked. It's fucked. Yeah. So it's a little cold out. I don't even know what I'm really making this video. I don't even kind of like an update for anybody that's wondering like where the fuck I've been. So yeah, it's cold as Florida weather goes. It's pretty nippy out tonight. No wind, thank God. So it's actually nice. Because usually it's fucking hot and muggy and moist and whatever. Yeah. So I'm just out taking a walk, and I had the thought that, you know what, if I'm out doing this, fuck it, let's do something, because I haven't done anything in the last like 2 days. Because my job. Well, I shouldn't say my job like it's a real thing, like it's an entity. My job, my company, whatever. These aren't real things. They're not people. My boss at or I say my ex manager, my former employer, whatever the fuck whatever you want to call it. Basically office politics got me terminated, I believe is the term they wanted to use. Back in my This is my grandpa's upbringing again, where a lot of what I have is instilled from my grandfather, since I was lacking a father in my life for basically my entire life. We'll get into that background another day. But the things I learned from him, a lot of my work ethic and everything, which is a good work ethic, mind you, which is why I say I was fired over office politics. I wasn't fired over anything abhorrent, I didn't do anything actually physically wrong at the job. I kept everything clean. I did all the work that I was required to do for minimum wage. So they were paying me minimum wage. I was giving them minimum effort. I believe the fucking liberals and the CEOs nowadays want to be like, oh, it's quiet quitting is the thing I heard in the last couple of years that they're trying to rebrand as. It's like, no, it's called doing your fucking job, And to my boss's credit, she didn't try to hide the fact that it was petty as fuck. Why she was firing me, because she had this cute little list of write-ups, of like, oh, this, that, and the third, which half of them were just straight up lies. Not like somebody else was lying about me, but she was just making shit up to seem like she was justified. And not that she has to be. I mean, the state is hell, and one of many, many, many states in the supposedly United States, right? Not even getting into the politics today. I'm just try and avoid that if I can. But yeah, it's just one of those things of like, it's just that caused me not to be unemployed. I have time off for the first time in like it's not like I didn't have time off. I had weekends, so I had like 2 days out of the week, 2 or 3 days where, got the usual weekend thing. I'd come home, be exhausted from work. So all I could really get up to, and it's my own fault for not, scheduling properly and whatever. That's the world we live in, is you have to make time for things, because time doesn't make itself. You can't just have a schedule and do things when you feel like it. You have to make things work, and that's the sad reality, is if you want to get anything done, you have to schedule your whole fucking life, because if you're working, or even if you're in school, like I was in school full time, and I had basically no leisure activities other than hanging out with my buddy who lived on campus, and we would basically get lunch every day, because I was there, he was taking classes, we were both had pretty similar schedules, really. So we had break times in between. So it's like, okay, we'll just go get lunch, because we're around at the same time. But yeah, no. This is, I think the only time off I had was actually in February. I went to a convention, and technically that was still kind of just a weekend because I had worked that week anyway. So it was like the 2 days of work I was missing from then weren't really missing because I would have been off those 2 other days anyway. So it's like I was working like 4 days that week, but I already worked 2 days. So really, the 2 days in that week I was missing was basically the weekend. So yeah, it was like I had, 4 days off that week, so I could go to the convention instead of the usual 2. And so yeah, I think 2 years and 4 months. And this isn't like a fucking pity Olympics or whatever, or like a whatever you call it. Like when people start comparing how hard people have it, it's like I do this, I do that. It's like I don't fucking care. I'm not in the poverty Olympics or whatever. I don't fucking give a shit. I'm just saying, like, for me, 2 months or 2 years and 4 months, that's a pretty big stretch with no real downtime. To where you're not thinking, okay, I got to go back in the office on Monday type of thing. Not that I worked in an office, but you get the idea. The whole Sunday scaries thing, I think, is the term I've heard get thrown around sometimes, is like when you get anxious on Sunday because you got to go back in on Monday. Yeah. So, I mean, and I'm not even here to really talk about the job. It's just like, that's just context for why the fuck this is happening. I kind of made a similar video to this a couple years ago where I had an emotional breakdown that week, and it actually caused me to change my major in college. It made me reevaluate some things. And I think now I'm a little more, how do I put this? Like emotionally stable, more emotionally mature, because I've always been kind of lagging behind people in social graces. I'll freely admit that. But yeah, I think after getting out of school and finishing that and being like, all right, we did that, that's over, and then going to work and all that, I'm like, all right, now I'm working. That's sort of the place I'm at, is that every day, because I worked in retail. I was, and I've got other applications out. I actually had an interview the day before I was let go from what was my current job. I had an interview for another job, so I was already in the process of looking for other jobs because I fucking hated working there. So it's not even like oh, I lost my job. Oh no, fuck them. Like, I'm not gonna say the name of the company that I work for, just because that would be unprofessional. But still, fuck them. Because they wanted to mismanage our location. They wanted to be pieces of shit, and then expected me to care when I was being paid the lowest legal wage they could give me. And then I had the new manager, because we had an old manager. She got canned, and then another lady manager comes in and she does that. And so for the last 4 months, she's been basically riding my ass, my coworker's ass, who also got replaced. So it was like, it's a whole thing. She had another location. That location got leased out by corporate to a different company. So now all those people needed somewhere to go. So now she could actually replace us because she didn't like us because we wouldn't. It plain just nepotism is like the people she worked with at that other location. Yeah, they're incompetent. Yeah, they're probably not going to do the paperwork right and do the floors right and all the shit that I was doing right. They're probably going to get wrong. And I find that very funny because it just proves the point that, like, nepotism rules the world. It has nothing to do with how hard you work, with your dedication, your discipline. I hate these guys online. I don't hate them personally. I hate their talking points, right? It's like I believe, what's that one guy? The guy that's always running in his videos, the fucking sports guy, the guy that I think he was like an Army Ranger or something. I don't know. He's like tan. He's got a bald head. Fucking David something. I think it's David Goggins. Is that the guy? I don't know. You guys, I'm sure you know the guy. He's always like, yeah, you tell life it's a bitch. That kind of guy, Yeah, it just, when I hear stuff like, oh, you gotta be disciplined and all, it's like, for what? For fucking what? Like, you need to be disciplined so that you can continue to contribute to a society which will let you down, which will, elect people who are manipulators and awful and destroy our government every chance they get, who, all you're going to do is continue to be a cog in the machine, and the rich are going to get richer. Now, you don't have a choice. This is the thing, is you don't have the choice to even leave the society anymore, because all the land is owned by somebody. It's either private land or public land. And even when it's public land, it's like a fucking national park. So you can't even just say, fuck it, I'm done, and go live in the woods. You have to like stealth camp that, or else the park rangers rightfully will get mad at you, because if everybody started doing that, it would destroy the national park, and that's exactly why national parks exist. Like, that's the whole point. That's why Teddy Roosevelt set them up in the first place. So yeah, I can understand the angle of like, it's kind of a bitch in that way of like, I don't know. It's just one of those things. But yeah, it's just like what's the discipline for? Is it for you, or is it for the system? Because if the discipline is just to get you through the day, like, I'm a practical guy, right? And that's one of the things that got me terminated. Terminated, fired. Again, back in my grandpa's day, they just called it fired. There was no talk of words like terminated or laid off. It was, you're working or you're not working. It was that fucking simple. Yeah, and so that's how I view it, is I was working. I'm now not working. For the foreseeable future, I don't have a job at this moment. I felt lucky in the interview I had the other day. Patty's Day just passed, so maybe luckily Irish was with me. I don't fucking know. Maybe I'll get that job. If not, I'll get a different job. And then I'll go to that job, and I will put in the amount of effort they're willing to pay me. So, I'll do my job right, and I'll, whatever. So, but that's the thing is, I just keep thinking, like, what are we doing, right? Like what are we as human beings doing on the planet right now? Like, what, it's like everybody's just kind of surviving, this capitalist fucking hellscape we find ourselves in. And I'm not going to go full fucking communist in this video or whatever, eat the rich, whatever. Like, I agree with the sentiment, but at the same time, like, fuck, man. Like, I'm just, like, over all of it. I'm over the left and the right and the up and the down and the everything. I'm like, why? No, like, nobody's seeing the forest for the trees here. It's like you're missing it. You're missing the point. As this is gonna get a little edgy, but you got what I like to call the literally me genre, because that's what cropped up online, is all the guys like, oh yeah, fucking Patrick Bateman and Tyler Durden and all this. Like, okay, you can take certain things from the movies. You can have good takeaways, which a lot of it's a warning, but the irony is that something like Fight Club, right? When you really examine it, and I have watched that movie like at least probably 100 times at this point, and over the last like 3 years since I properly sat down to watch it. I knew about it, but sometimes sometimes I'll know a film, I'll get the general idea, and then I sit down and watch it and go, that was the point. That's what you guys were getting at. Also, apologies for the angles shit or whatever. I don't do these phone videos. I don't do these. So I don't know. But yeah, it's just like in Fight Club, there's a particular scene that like basically every minute of that movie is a fucking masterpiece. It's fantastic. The funniest part is Fight Club is supposed to be sort of a warning of like what happens with toxic masculinity and all this other shit. Except it's not really. It comes off, when you really examine it, it's at its core, it's actually, I'm kind of putting together a video. Like, if I do a really long video essay on it, I want to really review it, something like meaning of, but think that the meaning of, like I did with The Rebel, but extrapolate that to it would probably take me at least an hour and a half to do like, the movie's like 2 hours. It would probably take me 2 hours to talk about and really examine everything, because I have this thought in my head between Fight Club and punk, and that sort of anarchy thing, which day by day as I've gotten older, to finish my original thought before I go off on the punk thing, Fight Club, right? So there's this great scene where Tyler Durden is speaking to the main character, and he says, we are not special, this does not belong to us, because they're arguing about the Fight Club, and the main character's ego is getting in the way because he doesn't, at that point in time, he feels like he's not being recognized as the co-founder of Fight Club, because everyone's just talking about Tyler Durden and nobody's talking about him, so he's feeling undervalued, and Tyler's just like, no, you don't get it, this is not about us, we're not special, that kind of thing. Like, Like we are worthless. There's another great bit where he's like, you're not your job, you're not the contents of your wallet, you're not your fucking khakis. It's like you're not the car you drive, right? It's this great thing where he's staring right into the camera like this when he says it. It's again, the whole movie is fucking phenomenal. Like the fact that it had to become a cult classic for people to appreciate it kind of pissed me off because it's like it just shows that at the time nobody wanted to accept the fact that society was inherently a problem, you know? And like, what the fuck, people? Wake up. What are you doing? That was the entire point of the film. And nobody saw it, nobody cared about it. And so, greatest film of all time, probably. Like it's up there. It's up in my top 10 for sure. Maybe I'll do a film ranking one day of all the shit I've seen and what I believe is the best film of all time. Not Citizen Kane. Citizen Kane can stay the fuck out. I had enough of that shit in film school. Oh, Citizen Kane's such a great movie. Yeah, it's good. Like 2 times. After that, there's nothing deeper in that movie. It's, oh my god. Anyway, but no, like it's this whole thing of like punk and anarchy and all this. And when I was younger, I always kind of had these thoughts. As I said earlier, I'm a practical guy. I always had these thoughts of why are things inefficient? Like, why don't things make sense? Because in my brain is very straightforward. I need to probably go to a therapist or something and have them look at it, or a psychoanalyst, whatever the fuck you want to call that, where you go and they sit down and they go, okay, you got ADHD or autism, whatever the fuck they want to diagnose you with, and try to shove pills down your throat, Not saying get off the pills, okay? Just listen to a doctor, for the love of God. They probably know what they're talking about. They're there to help you, usually. That's most of the time they're trying to help you, But yeah, it's one of those things like, if I talk to them, they'd probably be like, oh yeah, there's this thing in your brain because of these tests we've done, and you're part of this demographic of mental illness, or just having your brain wired a different way, whatever you want to call it. And I always had these thoughts when I was younger, right? This started as early as like 7 or 8 when my brain started to understand consciousness, and I was like, oh, I'm a being. I have thoughts and opinions and feelings, and what am I doing? Why am I here? And so I had my existential crises like far in advance of everybody else. Everybody kind of hits that teen angst age, like teenage angst. They kind of hit like r/, I'm 14 and this is deep type shit, right? That's why I never got into the literally me genre. American Psycho, Fight Club, Taxi Driver, Drive, and Nightcrawler are some of the more recent examples. But the reason I never got into those movies when I was a kid was like, I was still kind of in La La Land. I used media as escapism, which is what most people do. But I was more interested in the stories and the morals and the characters, right? And I was engrossed by that aspect of film and television. And I didn't read as much. I love the Dr. Seuss books and stuff like that, but I wasn't a huge reader of novels. Still not. But I am working my way through Les Miserables just because I've seen the movie and I love the movie, and I picked up the pocket edition years ago when I was at college, and I never sat down to actually read it properly. But yeah, I stumbling over my words here because I'm trying to get this out. I always thought like, oh yeah, let's do it this way because this seems to be the most effective, efficient way of doing something. I'd always try to go to the most direct route and not just listen to what anybody in authority said. My mom, my grandfather, which again, I respected them. I love them. They're my family, but I would be, even if I did what they said, I would constantly be questioning, because they taught me to think, and I would constantly be questioning, are we doing things in the most efficient way? Could we try something else? Would it really take away from what we're doing in this moment if we tried something else? We can always go back to the old system if the new system doesn't work. We can just dabble in the new system, and if it works, great. If it doesn't work, then all right, I was wrong. Like, who fucking cares? Yeah, no, I've been thinking a lot about that lately. Like, take farmers, for instance, right? I don't know if I mentioned this on stream last time I streamed, because it's this whole thing. Like I said, the chick that came in to my work and started fucking micromanaging me. It was like, dude, like I was all over the place. And then I went to that convention in February, and after that, recently I went and I visited my brother, and he's out of town, so I didn't want to get into streaming that. So I streamed like Next Fest, right? And that was about all we did recently. But yeah, no, I don't know if I've said this on stream recently. I feel like I have. maybe, but I've talked to a lot of different people about this. I've given this idea out, which is take farmers, for instance, right? So if you got to pick like 1,000 tomatoes in a day, right? One farmer could probably pick all 1,000 of those tomatoes by himself. And again, I'm not talking about farming equipment or whatever. In this scenario, imagine you're doing all this shit by hand, right? You could probably get through all that in a timely manner, whatever, you know, let's say that 1,000 tomatoes represents all work on the farm that day, right? Simple as. But my idea is like, why have one guy do 1,000 actions when it's the same action? When you could just have 1,000 guys do one action and you could be done literally like immediately, right? Like just have more workers than you actually need. And then everybody can do one thing and then the work is done. Like the obligatory work for the day. You have gotten the food, you've given it to the truckers, they've taken it to the supermarkets and so on, right? The logistics is kicked in. And now you worked for 5 minutes. So now you can fuck off the rest of the day, right? And you just have a system in place to distribute that food to all the other people who are maybe done with their work because they all work together as a community to do something. And now their work is all done for the day. And so they're fucking around, you're fucking around, and everybody's sharing the food. And everybody is just existing equally, right? And very utopian view of the future, I know, but just a thought experiment. That's been rattling around in my head for weeks. And this is what happens when you work at a job, like specifically a retail job. And again, it wasn't the customer. I had very nice regulars at my job. I like talking to them. They were very cool. That's the one thing I don't like about being terminated, is that my regulars are very chill. And I'm sure they'll see through my manager's bullshit because they ask like, oh, what happened to him? Oh, he's terminated or whatever. It's like, they know me. They know that whatever my manager tells them, she's going to be full of shit. Or my manager, my ex-manager, whatever, her over there, that person. Yeah. And that's, you know, that's the thing is when you spend most of your shift having literally nothing to do because there's nothing to do because I already did everything. I'm efficient, right? Hang on, let me move over because I've been holding this with the one hand and it's fucking cramping up on me. Like I said, it's fucking cold in this car. It's not like super cold. Like I said, it's Florida cold though. So if you live in Florida and you get cold, it's like, that's a whole different cold. You know, it's a whole different cold. It's not like snow cold. That's, again, relative stuff. But I've been thinking about stuff like that lately, and I've been, YouTube is popping the fuck off with the algorithm. I don't know what it is. I don't know what I hit, what button I clicked, but it's been recommending to me a lot of new punk or alternative, whatever the fuck you want to call it. So that's what I was doing the other night, was just listening to my punk playlist. There's actually a great song by Matzagram, Mattsa, and then Graham, like graham crackers, Matzagram. And he's got this great fucking song. Like the last 3 songs he's had, I love because they're very lyrical. I love lyrical songs. But this song, it's sort of folk punk, you know, which is very different from the rest of his discography. And it's called Tell My Boss. And the whole song is about a guy being dead. And as the story goes, he's dead. And he's like, you know, tell my boss I'm not coming back to work, and, you know, let him piss and moan and all this. And I was belting that song out at the top of my lungs as I was like getting, you know, like putting my shit back in the car. Cause my my work, you know, my ex-employer, right, whatever, my former employer, she waited, like, she didn't even tell me, because I worked on Monday, and she didn't even tell me until literally yesterday, right? She didn't even tell me until yesterday, which was Wednesday, when I came, yesterday was Thursday. Today's Friday. See, I'm unemployed. Time means nothing to me. Yeah, she didn't even think it was worth that, and I know what it is. She was trying to hurt me in some way and, you know, screw me over. Let me get paid, because I got paid on Wednesday. I went out, did some shopping. Also, yeah, I thrifted this, like, with the last paycheck. Not the one I just hit, but before that. This whole outfit actually is thrifted. But yeah, no, I fucking love Goodwill. Goodwill's fantastic. Yeah, no, except the shoes. Goodwill, can we please take like $10 off the shoes? I saw a really nice pair of boots. Like, it goes all the way up the fucking shin. Didn't have any laces in it. You know, would it need to be cleaned up a little bit? Okay, fine, cool, they're used. I would have put different laces in myself, you know, but they were like perfect for my purposes. I'm trying to put together like a punk outfit, and I have some okay fashionable boots that I'm wearing right now, actually. And but these boots I saw, I mean, they're like $50 fucking. I'm like, for these? What the fuck? I go to a regular store for like 80 and get the same boots. What are you talking about? But I don't want to support the machine. You know what I mean? I don't want to. I don't want to get into that and be like, oh yeah, fucking, you know, let me just buy these because I want them. Like, that's consumerist shit, you know? That's why I like to thrift, because it gives new life to old things that doesn't actually contribute to that. And like, I don't buy a million billion things when I go Goodwill shopping. I just buy the things I'm like, hey, DVDs for my collection, or, you know, some toys for my niece who's young enough to, you know, want some toys that might be at Goodwill, and she might appreciate those. You know, and I try to do that because I'm never having a family. I'm never like I have my family, but I'm never having like the whole relationship, children. I've known didn't want kids. Relationship maybe if it ever happens, but kids, no. That's, you know, that's the thing of like, and I know a lot of people are feeling that way nowadays, where fucking no to kids. You know, just no to kids, because it's like I always think of it in the way that I don't want to curse someone else with sentience. You know, that's not fair to them, because now they have to grow up in a world that they didn't choose to be a part of, and it's a world that seemingly is only going to keep getting really, really fucked up until, you know, as history tells us, violent revolution happens, and then some things maybe get fixed, at least temporarily. And it's just silly. It's a silly idea to even have kids. It's like, the only reason that the world needs children is to continue the societies we have built around the ideas of the family unit, right? You just need the kid to replace you. Like, you have the kid and that replaces you in the system, so that when you're old and feeble and can't work anymore, the kid is working in your place, and by working, they're supporting you. And it's actually sort of how Social Security works, is that you're not actually paying into it right now. You're paying for everyone that's already in it. So my mom paid for my grandfather when he was collecting his Social Security, when she was working. And then, you know, I'm paying for my dad's Social Security while I'm working. And if I want to have that if I want to guarantee that Social Security is like there, I am encouraged by the system. And it's a good system. Social Security is a very good system, right? We should have that. We should not be putting the retirement thing on the individual, right? Or hoping a company gives you like a 401k or this other bullshit that they could just say, oops, you worked for 40 years and now you've been fired and the economy is terrible, and so now we're going to renege on the deal, or the company's gone completely belly up so you don't even get a proper retirement plan or whatever, you know. If cash is even still a thing in 40 years. I don't know what the fuck is going on with the money. But yeah, I just, like, if you don't have kids, they don't have slaves. And make no mistake, just because we fought a civil war over it, and just because we got the Civil Rights Act passed, like, slavery never ended, right? They just expanded the pool, right? So instead of having chattel slavery where you know, could show that you're using force against somebody in a physical way, they just switched to wage slavery, dude. That's all they did. Is in America, the black man was never freed. Let me just say this, you know, and what I mean by this is that the chains were taken off, but in reality, all they were ever given was the chance to be as free as the poorest white person, which is why there was still a lot of racism, because it was like a poor white guy could have his anger, instead of it getting it directed at the corporations, the billionaires, which is a tactic they're still using now, and they would just have it redirected at the black people. Say, see this guy over here, this is the problem. You're better than that guy. It's like, the fuck you mean I'm better than that guy? We're all human. You know, and again, times are different, whatever, but it's the same tactics again. Like, that's what we're seeing right now, is they're like, oh, left versus right. It's like, that's not the fucking thing. It's always been the poor against the rich. Always. It's always been the, you know, the socially conscious, community-driven people, which is the majority of human people. That is ingrained in you. That's usually cooperation is the thing. When you look at history, that's how whole cities and shit and nations got started, was through cooperation, not through force. And that's, people are just like-minded, and they'll do the right thing, not because it's the greatest thing and, oh, people are so wonderful. No, they'll do it because if I help my neighbor to be more secure, and stable, that helps me, right? It's like the world. You look at world politics. We send foreign aid over to, we should be taking care of our own guys, our homeless, our veterans, etc. Obviously, but we have enough to take care of everybody. That's the thing, is we do. We just have to share the resources correctly, and we're not doing that because fucking billionaires, right, own our government and own the world, right? They bought it. They bought all of it, right? It started with fucking, it didn't really get off the ground until Reagan. We'll put it that way. Reagan, with a lot of his economic policies, the whole thing, it's like he fucked everything up. When America had it really, really good until Nixon, and then Nixon got us in and started fucking everything up. It's like, I wonder why. I wonder why that's where the pork barrel spending started. I wonder why you have all of this shit happening with Nixon and Reagan and all this. And in between you had, like, Jimmy Carter, kind of doing a maintaining job in the middle. Bill Clinton, kind of doing a maintaining job for a little bit. But, it's just like, what the fuck? That's what it is. You give it away. But that's just where I'm at, is I look at all this and I'm like, fucking why? And this is why they want you working all the time, too. Is because you cannot form these opinions if you are too tired to think, right? And I'm not saying quit your job. I'm not saying fuck the whole system, burn it all down. It's like, I don't care if it all burns down. I'm consider myself a bit of an anarchist or whatever. But it is what it is. We're all going to die one day. I'm going to die. You're going to die. Your family's going to die. Like, we're all going to be dead at some point, right? So I'm not crying over that. That's never really the problem to me. The problem is in not living for something, in not really living, right? It just, it's so dumb, all of it. And I don't know. I've been looking at it lately, and I'm like, the more I hear about it, I really look into it, because I wasn't big on music genres and stuff growing up. I was like, okay, you got country, you got rock, you got rap, and that was as far, and you got the classical stuff, right? But that was as far as my purview went, and I never really classified anything by, like, oh, is this punk, is this neo-punk, is this whatever the fuck, which neo-punk is actually an interesting genre that I didn't even, I've used that term on stream before, but I didn't know that was actually a term until somebody used it in another comment. I'm like, oh, that's a real thing, okay. Neo-punk is what basically bands that continue on, like, Green Day, or anybody that's, you could make, this might piss off some music lovers, but you could make the argument that somebody like Youngblood is neo-punk. He's not really, or at least he's alternative. It's like one of those things of, I don't know, I don't get into the whole politics of it. I don't try to. I try to stay out of the gatekeeping of, is this not? It's like, fuck you. How does it make you feel? That's all that matters, man. Does the music speak to you, and does the music have a point? Right? That's, if the, and it's like with punk, punk is, it's not just about rebellion, it's about community too. It's inherently, it's anti-government or anti-authority. Authority and government usually go hand in hand. But for anarchy, it's usually anti-authority and pro-community, which is what I'm all about, which is what I'm saying with the farmers and shit. That's pro-community right there. That's the other half of the coin. That's the flip side of the conversation, is you need to be anti-authority. So if you have guys declaring martial law, if you have, corporations fucking people over and buying up all their houses and then ruining the real estate market, things like this, all this shit. It's like that. Yeah, be anti that. Be anti-authority. Don't have somebody telling you rules that don't make sense. Your rules need to be fucking practical. Because if your rule is not practical, if you have a law that is not practical and doesn't serve a real purpose, guess what? That's just authoritarianism. That's just you making shit up. That's you making up rules to do simply because you want to control other people. Right? And that's what punk is against. That's what anarchy is about, is fighting that. And the best way to fight that is to be pro-community, and to come together with other people and say, no, we don't need the government to help us. We don't need the government to tell us we can or can't do something. We just need to see a problem and then fix it. We need to have a problem and then have a solution to that problem. And when we have the solution, great, we fix it. It's not a big deal, Simple solution, housing the housing crisis, as they call it right now, the housing market bubble, whatever the fuck, it's gonna burst. Real estate always does this. It's just a way for private equity to fuck everything up and then buy on the cheap. That's exactly what they do. And the thing that kills me is, like, we have homes. Like, we've built so many places for people to live. We could build. I live in an apartment, which I think honestly they could have built it taller. They could have done more with this place to give even more people a place to live in this area that would have been affordable. And it's just one of those things, like, you can do it. I mean, if the freaking Soviets, it doesn't even need to be the nice place in the world. The freaking Soviets back in the day, they did those big apartment blocks, they're ugly, yeah. They're highly utilitarian. It's something to keep somebody out of the snow. That's all they were really trying to do. They were trying to quickly build that shit so they could move people into the cities. It's a whole thing. Not to praise Putin and the Cold War and all that other bullshit. He can fuck right off too. But I'm just saying these are real physical, tangible results to something. And then we can do that. We can solve homelessness tomorrow. Just give people houses. What's the fucking big deal? I don't understand that. Like, it's home is where you make it. You know, you are home wherever you are, right? You just give somebody somewhere to live and shower and eat their food and all. It's like, that's all a house is, bro. It's just a place for you to be clean, to sleep, and then to eat food. And then what do? You leave that place, you go to another place where you're working. You know, you go from the house to the place of work, and then maybe there's a third place. The third places have been killed, but, you know, if we talk about that, we'll be here all night. It's already been going on for like 30 minutes. But I don't really care. I don't really care. I mean, this video can be as long as it wants. Put it on double speed. You know, I sound much better in double speed, to be honest. It's not that I talk slow. It's just I say a lot of shit. It takes me a while to get to the point sometimes. But, yeah, I don't know. That's what I've been feeling. Not even just like, oh, yeah, the thing spurring me is that I don't have anything to wake up for in the morning. I have some stuff to do around the house, the usual stuff, but I can do that any time of day. I don't need to be up in the morning. I don't need to be out the door at a certain point to go to work anymore because I don't have a job right now. So that kind of makes me the most dangerous man in the world. It's because I have nothing right now. It's like I have nowhere to be. I have nothing but time. And again, that's why they want you working all the time, is because you just if we shared everything equitably, then the billionaires and such wouldn't get their rocks off controlling people, right? Because at the end of the day, money is power, right? We have a capitalist system. In the capitalist system, how much money you have is how much power you can exercise over that system, right? You know, we have fucking bribery. We have legalized bribery in this country, right? They call it lobbying. I call it fucking bribery because that's what it is. It's corrupt and it's stupid, where you can just pay politicians huge sums of money and it's fine. And it's like they're living in houses and shit that are far beyond what any of them could afford to pay for off of their salaries, you know? It's like, what the fuck? Where are they getting all this shit? Bribes. It's just bribes. I don't know. This whole thing, I've been thinking about it for a while, you know, this whole thing of me going out and listen, you know, I put in my headphones or whatever and then walk around listening to tunes, you know, wandering around on the playground, middle of the night, whatever, just hanging out. And it's just like, that started because of my job. I didn't used to drink, right? Like I was the guy who needed a reason to. I would drink maybe on my birthday. If I'm visiting my brother and it's his birthday, we'll have a drink together. If it's like a holiday, you know, you give me a holiday, you give me a reason, okay, I'll have a beer or two. You know, I'm not going to go overboard with it, but yeah, sure. But this job that I had it put me in such a fucking mental state that I needed to drink. I actually, to decompress, you know, I would have, you know, a couple of beers, just to the point where I would stop thinking. So like that, you know, and I wouldn't do it every week. It would be like maybe like a once a month type of thing. You know, it depends on how stressful and stupid the last week has been on my fucking mental state, you know. But it wasn't an all the time thing. It's not an alcoholic thing. It's not like I'd say, oh, I'm looking forward to the weekend so I can drink. It's like sometimes I would feel it and I'd be like, you know what, let me grab a beer or two from work and I'll do that. I'll check those out before I leave, and then I'll, you know, get home and do some drinking, eat some food, collapse into my bed at 3 or 4 in the morning because I worked closing. That's why I'm up at this hour anyway. Simple as. Don't mind me. I didn't sleep much last night. I plan on sleeping in all day, but I woke up at like after only sleeping like 5 hours, and I've just been like malazing around all day doing nothing. Just because, fuck it, right? Like, what am I doing? I have nothing that's urgently pressing at the moment. Yeah, it just, but that's crazy, right? That I can officially say that my job had driven me to drink. It changed my mental state. Employment changed my own feelings towards what I know to be a poisonous substance. And I imbibed in it, and I allowed it. And I thought, yeah, this is fine. It's like, what the hell? Does that freak anybody else out to think that we need, beer to celebrate the fact that we made it through another week of employment? That we need, cigarettes in the middle of the shift, go take a smoke break to decompress from just existing in that space and being there doing that job in that way. It's like, why do we need that? What pushes us towards that, The simple stuff, like, what the fuck? Like, why are we doing that? And even that's getting expensive. I mean, even that, like, the simple... I drink, like, the cheapest swill I can find, and even then I'm like, it's literally the cheapest beer. Like, the cheapest beer that I have around this area. And I'm like, and it's still, like, I look at that, I'm like, ooh, this amount of drinking cost me $5, right? But if I did that every week, that's one reason I didn't do it every week, is because I couldn't afford it on, my waist, like empty calories there being added to the mix. And then I couldn't afford it in my wallet either, because that would be like $20 a month. That's basically a subscription to drinking. Like, what the hell? I don't know. It just, yeah. The whole world's kind of just fucked right now. I mean, it's been fucked for my entire life. It's been fucked. And if you're about as old, I'm turning 29 this year, and I've always known the world was fucked, like, since the day I was born. And anybody that's my age, you'll have the same generational trauma if you're an American. I'm sure it impacted the rest of the world as well, like with the whole Afghanistan war and everything. But the second I was sitting in elementary school, and I was like, I would have been 5 or 6, something like that, when the whole 9/11 thing happened. That changes your entire perspective on the world, is that, oh, so this is all very different now. Because then you start hearing the news reports of, here is war. It's like, what the fuck is war? Like, you had a whole bunch of 5-year-olds. You got a bunch of guys that didn't know their fucking multiplications yet. And even then, they're like, you come home and you're sitting at the kitchen table doing your homework, and you're hearing your parents watch the news, hearing about this brand new conflict. Like, you have no idea what war is, And then you learn about it and you go, why the fuck are we doing any of this? That sounds really stupid. If you really think about it for more than 5 minutes, you think, oh, damn, It's like, that's messed up they attacked us, but it's also messed up we're attacking them. It's like, why is anybody attacking anybody? What the fuck is wrong with people? Like, what is happening in the world, And then, of course, 2008 happens with the whole financial crisis. They always call it a crisis, don't they? They can't just call it what it was, which was, rich assholes and banks fucking everybody up. That's what it was. Is they fucked everything up on purpose. They did it on purpose. Because that's what the system is by design to do. It does it every fucking time. Every time you don't regulate people with money and tell them what they can and can't do, they will 100% be greedy and fuck you over. They will fuck over as many people as they can and then run out the back door with the bag. And of course, what did they do? They bailed the banks out. You can't afford to not have the banks. You got to go to the banks and say, oh, we're going to take taxpayer money. We're going to take taxpayer money from the public and give it to these private banks, these private entities, which were the ones that fucked people over. The dudes, there's actually, I know Nickelback's not a big, like, people love to shit on Nickelback for basically no reason, but there's a great Nickelback song that I actually really like. I like a few of them, but one of them that's really good, like lyrically, is "Edge of a Revolution," and I'm pretty fucking sure that's Nickelback from what I recall, but I could be wrong. But Edge of a Revolution, right? Stand on the edge of a revolution, right? That's the repeating chorus in there, and one of the lines is that it basically referencing Occupy Wall Street in that era, and around 2008, 2010, and there's a line in there. It's a great fucking line. I think we'll end with that line because it's just something to think about. Where they said it's when they talking about financial criminals, right? Like the banks and stuff. And he said, when they get caught, they all go free, a brand new yacht and a finder's fee, right? So it's basically like, yeah, the government bails these fuckers out every time, right? They do it. And it's not just America, too. It's not even just an American thing. It's every single capitalist system has gone through this. There has been, because 2008 wasn't just an American thing. That was every fucking where in the world. So it was a global problem. And so what happened was all the other markets were like, yeah, we're capitalist systems too, so our governments had to bail out those guys too. It was just funneling money to the rich, yet again. That's all it was, And this might come off as like an eat the rich, fuck them type of thing, but it's like, yeah, fuck them. Why? Why should I care? I was born poor, I'm going to die poor. I have, if I don't, great. If I, all I want to do along the way is tell some stories and maybe write some songs, make some art. That's all I'm here for, And if that happens, great. If it doesn't happen, okay. I'm still at square one, which is I'm gonna die someday. I can be content in that knowledge. That I think was the whole point of Fight Club, is trying to get people to understand that you need to make peace with that. You need to make peace with that. Like, you don't have a fucking choice. Because there's none of this like they went peacefully in their sleep. That's not a thing. That's not a thing. As somebody who stared death in the face in multiple ways, I had my grandmother, sorry, let me go in chronological order here. My grandfather, and then several months later, my grandmother, and then about a year after that, my brother, and then about another year after that, my other brother, right? I had multiple different interactions with death in the span of like 2 or 3 years. And so it was like, and it's different forms too. Because when you go from, hey, this guy is, you got old people. Okay, yeah, they're older. You can expect that. It kind of hurts because that's your first big thing. And I was older at the time. So it's like, okay, it's not like I lost him when I was a kid. I knew him. I understood death. I got the idea. And so when it happened, I'm like, all right, we do the funeral bit. Cool, they're older. And then my brother dropped dead. I'm like, this guy was like, what, 28? Or I can't remember. It's been like 9 years since it happened or whatever. And I'm 8 years behind him. So yeah, basically like 28 when he just up and croaked because medical thing happened with him. And he just up and dropped. I'm like, damn. He was finally getting his life together at that point in his life. He was housewife, kids, the whole shebang. And he was just getting things together. And even he just get fucking drop kicked out of the universe. He's gone. It's like, okay, shit. It's like, how? Why? And that's, after that happens to you, you're never the same. You can't be the same after that. If you're the same after that, you're not paying attention. You need to learn something from that. What I learned from that was that don't ever think you're going to get ahead, because it's not going to happen, bro. I heard a great thing the other day. It said, there was a guy explaining why you can't, financial literacy your way out of poverty, because if you're born poor, you're probably going to fucking die poor. It's because there's systems in place to keep you poor, right? To keep you down. And, you can work, and you can work hard, and you can work good, and you can work long hours, you can make a little money, but the system is inherently designed. It's by design. It's to keep you from attaining power. And what is power in our system? Money. So it's designed to keep as much money away from you and in the hands of a very few select people, right, in the world. There are a handful of people in the world who own more things, more assets, more wealth than like the next 80 to 90% of the world combined, right? There's like only 5 or 6 of those guys. And they have these little economic fiefdoms. What do you want to call it, right? You know, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg off the top of my head. There's several other ones in the contention of the 5 or 6 richest in the world that own basically everything, because it's a monopoly. It's the goddamn board game Monopoly, where one guy ends up owning everything eventually, you know? But yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm doing tonight. And I'm gonna go back to it. I'm gonna listen to my latest playlist I put together, which is just punk. You know, it's some new punk, some old punk, some stuff that's not even really punk, but it's kind of got the vibe. That's how I make playlists, is I go by the vibe. So even if something's not technically in there, I'm sure the audio files will tear me apart for that one and be like, that's the wrong genre. I don't give a fuck. And the fact that you do is pretty pathetic. Like, I know it's your hobby, but come on, man. Come on. Get a life. It's just music, bro. It's just music. Jesse Wales actually is a good one to check out. We'll on a little positive note here. Go check out Jesse Wales. He's kind of I would say he's definitely folk punk, because all of his songs are like shitting on authority and pharmaceutical companies and all this other shit. But he dresses and he sounds a lot like John Denver, which I find very interesting. Very, very much reminds me of a John Denver type of guy. But he's a young guy. He just started, like, his first EPs and everything just came out in like 2024. So it's like, dude is just getting there now. It's like, wow, cool, you know. And great sound, great lyrics and everything. So yeah, Jesse Wales, or Jesse Wells. I think it's Jesse Wales. Wales. Think so. I don't know. You'll find him. You'll find him on Spotify and all that, all the usual stuff. Wow, we've been sitting here for like an hour. Holy shit, I should really end this. Yeah. So yeah, just sort of a check-in. No real updates as of yet about streaming and whatnot. I'll get back to it when I fucking feel like it. As the channel description always says, it's whatever I'm playing at the moment, and I haven't been playing anything. Today I was just doing an idle clicker game and watching Red Dwarf. Like, that's basically all I did today. And that's, going to be pretty similar to tomorrow, I'm just going to do some stuff around the house and mull around, and just exist and, be not productive for a minute, Not for too long, but yeah. I got to readjust to this whole not productive thing, because there's only a very short span of time, a couple of months, where I was not employed out of college, and then I got the job I had, and now I'm out of that job. So it's like, and I'm in the process of getting other jobs. So it'll be fun. It's a journey. I got some stuff I've been, trying to find the time to do. So I'm making the time now, because I got all the time in the world now. I can do whatever I want on any day I want. I got no obligations time-wise at the moment. So for the foreseeable future, I'll be doing what I want, when I want, how I want, who I want, with what object I want. I don't know. I'm completely out of my mind. If you can't tell at this point, we're fucked, guys. We're fucked. Settle in. This century, not just the next 4 years, as the news makes you think. It's not just going to be magically like, oh, we're going to fix it after 4 years. Even if we get somebody in to fix it, it's still going to be some serious growing pains. My entire generation, we're fucked. We are the second lost generation. Right? Anybody born in the 90s, you are part of that. You're fucked. I'm fucked. You're fucked. Simple as. All we can hope to do is survive and be loud enough and, fuck you enough to make the world change and be better, and not accept any of this bullshit anymore. And just be like, look, we're not doing this. We saw our parents get fucked over. We saw our grandparents get fucked over. We've seen the system chew everybody that we love up and spit them out. And if that's what you plan to do to me, it's not going to happen. Okay? I'll be in a ditch. All right? I will be face down in a ditch before I capitulate to this fucking, machine. So it is what it is. So keep up the good fight. Listen to some punk bands. Start DIYing some shit. And just fucking live, guys. Just live. But that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, then do the usual. Like, subscribe, check out my streams, and I will see you guys in the next video. Reaver the Rager, signing off.